Welcome to Steps Forward with Ricky, a weekly walking podcast designed to help you take steps forward in your life and your day. Episode 21. Welcome to Steps Forward with Ricky. If you are familiar and a podcast listener, an avid listener, you know that you should be walking. If you are new here, make sure that you are moving your body as you're listening. This is a walking podcast, and that is what we do. We put one foot in front of the other. So by the time you listen to this, I'll actually be on my road trip, which means that I decided to take my road trip. I talked about a couple episodes ago where I was, having some issues deciding if I wanted to go on my road trip. People in my family were trying to sort of steer me otherwise, and I ultimately decided to take my road trip. So right now, as you listen to this, I'm on the road, hopefully doing well and very happy about it. But one of the most important lessons that I've learned from this, even though right now I'm not on the road, I'm recording and I'm in the studio, but I know that the important decision of me saying that I'm going to go on the road and making sure that even if people didn't agree with it, and even if there were opinions, I was able to, for the first time in a really long time, take the people's opinions in consideration, but ultimately make my own decision. And that's a really important thing for me, for you, for anybody that's trying to make a decision. Or maybe you have family in your life that has a lot of opinions. Maybe there's people in your life that you feel obligated to take care of or stay for or do things for. And then, they sort of just get in the way of your decisions. Not because they're bad people, but because sometimes that people pleaser in us just does things for other people and we neglect our true selves. And me going on this road trip, regardless of what happens on the road trip, is a way for me to stay true to who I am. And every time we stay true to who we are, we become more of who we are. So if you're listening this to right now and you're thinking about doing something that you feel pulled to do, but you have some people in your life or some voices in your head, maybe it's fear, maybe it's family, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a job, whatever it is for you that is holding you back from making this decision, I want you to think about what happens if you don't make this decision. Because that is ultimately what got me to make this decision. I was sitting there and I was thinking, wow, when I am older, when I am this, when I am that, am I going to regret this decision, not going on this road trip? Regardless of what happens on the road trip, am I going to regret listening to somebody else and not listening to myself? And the answer was yes. And all the fear and all the opinions and all the other things sort of melted away because I knew that the long-term effect of me not going was greater than the short-term effect of me not going. And so sometimes it's about being scared and doing it anyways. Maybe disappointing some people, maybe looking at some people and saying, hey, thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to do this anyways, and staying firm in that. Sometimes we have to make decisions that not everybody agrees with, and it's just life. That's how we grow, and that's how we evolve, and that's how we transform. So just a reminder to stay true to who you are, even if people don't always understand it. That is not the topic for today. The topic for today is something I haven't really talked about yet. I've talked about it a little bit, and I'm not really going to personally go into my relationship, the relationship that I just had. But I want to talk about relationships, and I want to talk about heartbreak, and I want to talk about being in the right relationships and knowing when it's not the right relationship and staying too long and all the things that I think a lot of people experience. I've been in a lot of relationships and I've had my heart broken a lot. I have been with some really great guys. I've had some really beautiful relationships. I've been with some really shitty guys and had some really shitty relationships. We all do. And I've learned from each and every one of them. And trust me, I'm 33 years old. This is not exactly where I thought that I would be at 33 years old. I was in a serious relationship and we lived together, and you just sort of think okay, you're at this age and you meet this person and this is this and everything is great and you live together and everything is going, and you hope for the next step, right? Because ultimately, maybe you can relate to that, maybe you can't, but I think we all ultimately want to feel connected to somebody and we want to build our life with somebody. and we want to do the things, get married and have babies, or maybe you don't want to get married, maybe you don't want to have babies, but I think majority of us want to find that person. It's pretty normal, actually. Like, we're designed to be connected to people. And that's something that's extremely important to me, is to find my person. And on the quest of finding my person, on the quest of finding your person, we have to go through a lot of people that aren't our people. But there's nothing harder than being in a relationship that you don't know if it's going to work out. Not because it's a bad relationship, or because you don't love each other, or because there's some shit going on. It's just sometimes things don't work out. And, the live thingy, I don't know what just happened. Sorry, guys. Sometimes things just, they don't work out. And I think the hardest part about being in a good relationship is maybe wanting a great relationship and feeling guilty for wanting that, or feeling guilty for being like, I don't know, there's nothing really wrong with my relationship. So maybe it's the right relationship. But something that I've really learned is that, if it's not right, it's wrong. And it doesn't have to be wrong for a million reasons to be wrong. It doesn't even have to be bad for it to be wrong. It doesn't have to be anything for it to be wrong. It just, if it's not right, it's wrong. And that is the most painful, hardest realization that a person can make. Because of course you never know what the future is going to hold. But if you're in a relationship right now and there is a voice, maybe it's a loud voice, maybe it's a voice that only comes through when you let it, maybe it's a voice that manifests in all different kinds of ways in your life. But if there is a small part of you that doesn't know, that's because it's a no. And I don't say that to be judgmental, and I don't say that to put pressure on you. I don't say that to make you feel bad. I just say that because that's the truth. And when you're navigating through your relationship, so you're deciding to get married, or you're deciding if you want to live together or have children together, or whatever it is, you have to pay attention. Let me rephrase that. You have to be brave enough to pay attention to the voices you would rather ignore. I want you to think about that for a second. Just pause on your walk and just think about what I just said. You have to be brave enough to listen to the voices that you keep ignoring. And I know this live thing is not working for me. It's because of bad connection or something. I don't know. It's fine. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to record this live on Instagram too, so you're kind of getting the the shit end of it, of just like having to listen to me navigate through this. Anyways, let's get back to it. If I just said that to you, if I just said something to you that triggered you, or that you feel pissed about, or maybe you're like, damn, I have a voice that I keep ignoring. I want you to know that we all have a voice that we ignore sometimes in our life. A lot of people ignore it so much they get married and then they're miserable. A lot of people ignore it, they stay at a job and then they're miserable. A lot of people just ignore it and they don't even know that they're miserable because the voice that they ignore the volume has been shut down. It has been turned off. And then the lies that we tell ourselves start to get louder and louder and louder and louder. And here's the thing about the lies you tell yourself is that they manifest in all different kinds of ways, right? They can manifest through getting high. They can manifest through fear, through anxiety, through depression, through all the things. All the lies we tell ourselves become vices in our lives. They become anxieties. They become what you believe to be true. They become how you live your life, even though it's not really how you want to live your life. There is nothing more painful than the truth. And by the way, people are always like, the truth sets you free. Fuck that. The truth does set you free, but at first it rattles you. It can't not. Because the truth is if the truth didn't rattle you and didn't disrupt your life, even though eventually it transforms your life, then a lot of people would be more honest with themselves, right? Like if the truth wasn't scary, people would just be like, yeah, this is how I feel. Here's what I do, this and that. And people would just say whatever they wanted all the time. But it's fucking scary. I have been ignoring my truth since I don't even know how long. Not because I'm not truthful to who I am as a person, but because I've been so scared of my truth. I've been scared of my truth in relationships. I've stayed in relationships too long because I'm scared of the way that I feel, because it's not really how I want to feel, right? Like I want the happy ending. I want the love. I want the partnership. I want the babies. I want the wedding. And when your wants become greater than your truth, that's when the lies start to happen. And maybe you're listening to this and you're like, fuck, I want to turn this off because I don't want to hear this because I'm happy. And no relationship is perfect, and relationships take hard work and whatever the bullshit you want to tell yourself. It is the truth. Yes, relationships take hard work and they're not perfect. And listen, you're not always going to feel 100% in them, but you should feel 100% in your decision to be in it. And if you don't, and you're trying to figure out the reasons why you don't, it might not be this like black and white reason of this person doesn't check this off the list or they don't have this. It's not always like that. Sometimes it's just a fucking feeling. And I'm telling you, it's really, this is, my relationship ending, the one that I was just in, that was the hardest thing for me, for both of us, because it wasn't a bad relationship. It was a really good relationship, a really solid relationship, a beautiful relationship. Of course, there were some issues, there always is, but it's hard for me to be like, yeah, we didn't get along. Or yeah, we weren't a good team. Like we were great. And even when you're great, it might not be right. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't like to make permanent statements, but this isn't even about me and my relationship. This is just about what it's like to ignore your truth, or what it's like to bend the truth, or what it's like to stay when maybe you should go. I remember it was like episode 7 or 8, maybe it was episode 5. And I had been anxious a lot over the last year and a half, in and outside of my relationship. And nothing to do with the person I was with, really didn't have to do with him. But I do remember thinking, like, are we 100% in this? Like in my brain, I would sort of ask these questions. And I remember never wanting to talk about my relationship on the podcast because I couldn't even talk about my relationship in my relationship. Not because it was bad, but because I was so scared of the truth. I was so scared of asking myself questions because I was so scared of the answers, because the answers meant that my life, his life, our life, everyone's life that was involved might have to change. So the truth does set you free, but not before it rattles you. And the thing that we're the most scared of is the thing that we really need to do. Like I was scared I'm scared to go on my road trip, right? And to like not do what my family says or whatever the bullshit is, even though that's not really who I am. Like who I am is like a very individualist, powerful person, but my fear keeps me small. Maybe your fear keeps you small. I was scared to ask myself certain questions in my relationship because I don't want my relationship to end. Why would I want that? Why would you want that? But I have to go back to what I was saying. Like when your wants are bigger than your truths, that's when you start to lie. And nothing happens when you lie to yourself. You might be coasting. You might be achieving certain things, but you're getting like what's happening on the inside. I mean, you know it and I know it. I don't even have to explain it to you. If you're in something that you should leave, I don't have to explain to you what the feeling is. You fucking know. And the only reason I'm speaking to you maybe harshly or openly or honestly, is because I fucking know. I mean, I'm single now, and that's really tough because I want to get married and I want to have babies and I want all the things that maybe you want. And I was really scared of my truth because I thought my truth or our truth would maybe get me into the situation that I'm in now. But it's, you know, you just, if you're not telling the truth, you're lying. And if you're lying, your life never fucking changes. I mean, I was lying about smoking pot. My life didn't change. I mean, I was lying about everything. Truly, all my deep, darkest secrets, I was just trying to make them not true. Here's the thing about the truth. No matter how many times you lie to yourself, it doesn't become less of a truth. It just becomes less of a truth that you talk about. The truth is still there. It's still living there. Maybe it's living within you. Maybe it's living around you. Maybe it's living in everything that you do. But no matter how hard you want to make a truth a lie, it is still a truth. That's the truth. So I'm not here to tell you to end your relationship. I don't know what's going to happen in my future. Who the fuck knows what will happen? But I am here to tell you that if there is something in this episode that you related to, that you like felt triggered by, or that you're like, what the fuck? Damn. Maybe I'm sacrificing good for great. Maybe I'm staying too long. Maybe I'm afraid to ask myself some questions. Take a step, one step. And I want you to close your eyes. I know you're on a walk right now. So like maybe you don't do this right now, or just like pause for a second, stop your walk. And I want you to close your eyes for a second. And I want you to imagine yourself walking down the aisle, getting married, having babies, doing all the things. Maybe you don't want any of that. Just imagine yourself with a person. What does it feel like? What does it look like? What do they look like? What does the relationship feel like? What do you feel like in the relationship? What is the feeling that you're after that you don't have right now? Whether you're in a relationship or not. Because when you think about what you really want and who you really want, there's usually a feeling associated with it. We're so quick to say we want this, we want that, and we're like checking all these boxes, but people are so focused on the characteristics that they lose sight of the feeling that they're actually after. So if you think about the feeling that you're after, I want you to remember that if that's the feeling you're after and you don't have that feeling right now, I wouldn't sacrifice anything for that feeling. That's the feeling you're looking for. And you don't have to justify it. If that's what you want, that feeling, whatever that feeling is for you, the feeling of getting married, the feeling of laying next to your partner, the feeling of what it looks like or what it feels like when they walk into the room, the feeling of falling in love, if you're looking for that and you don't have that, then you need to make some decisions. Because you deserve that. And yeah, it's not going to be all the time, but you do deserve the things that you want. But when you stay or when you lie to yourself, you actually tell the universe that you don't deserve it. You're not worthy of it. You don't get to have the feeling that you're after. So maybe step one for you is just identifying the feeling that you're after, not the person you're after, the feeling that you're after. And maybe step two is just recognizing if you have the feeling in your life. And maybe step three is doing something about it. But you don't have to have every step figured out. So keep taking steps forward. Be honest with yourself. And, we're in this together. And you don't have to stay where you're at if you're trying to go somewhere else. I will see you on Monday.